I'm still sick. It's been 2 weeks and I'm still sick. What up, guys? Joe White here. Got a little bit of a crazy themed video today. A little bit of it's going to be on gaming, a little bit's going to be on wrestling and gaming, and then the end of it is going to be on the Food Network. Yes, that's right, the Food Network. Um, for those who don't know, I love to cook. I love to eat, obviously. And, a little bit about the end of this video, or the last half of this video is going to be a little bit about, the Food Network and its rise and then fall, so to speak. And they're still falling. Sorry, I have to take a drink here, or else I'm going to cough, and that's not going to be good audio. I want to talk a little bit about my grandmother. I drove to Richmond yesterday and spent a little bit of time with my grandmother, and she got to see her great grandson, which is nice, my son, obviously. And we're sitting there in Walmart because she wanted to get my son a new television. And we're in Walmart, and she looks at me, she goes, "I need your help." And I'm like, "Okay, with what?" She goes, "I need you to find me a casino game for my Xbox 360. Like, what? When did you get an Xbox 360? And she goes, "Oh, my boyfriend brought it for me. I want to play a casino game on it. I want to go. I want to play, slot machines and poker and stuff like that." My grandmother is now owner of an Xbox 360. Sorry for the audio dip. I didn't want you guys to hear that, but that blew my mind that my grandmother, who is 70 plus years old, is now an owner of a seventh generation video game console. She bought my Uncle Charles, who is now in his 50s, or a an Atari when he was a kid, and now she's buying herself a Xbox 360. I have the system and I have the TV and I have it hooked up to the TV, but I can't do nothing with it because I don't have the little. She literally goes, "I don't have the little round things to put in it." I'm like, "Discs?" She goes, "Yes, the discs. I want a casino disc to put in the Xbox 360." I was like, "Grandma, I don't know, go to GameStop." So I go off and I get my son's TV, and she comes back. I come back, and there she is in Walmart, you know, looking up at the 360 video games in Walmart, like, wow, they're so beautiful. Like it's like a kid with his fingers smushed up against the glass. Literally, it was so awesome to see. So there are people wondering what gamer grandma meant. I mean, don't count old people out of this. The average gaming age nowadays is like what, between 6 and 45. I think now we have to take that and expand it up to like infinity, man. That's awesome. And nonetheless, but this whole crap of the gamer gate thing. Ooh, gamer gate. Females aren't real gamers. Ooh, shut up. You have 70-year-old women playing Xbox 360. That's pretty damn awesome. Anyway, if anybody knows where I could get a casino game for the Xbox 360 for my grandmother, leave it in the comments below. So, I don't know of any casino games that are on the thing, to be honest, because I'm a PlayStation guy. I'm not really a big Xbox guy. So, that just shows you that if it were me buying it, she would have a PlayStation 3 or 4, not an Xbox. But anyway, that's just my personal preference. Nobody attack. "Oh, the Xbox is better." Meh. I don't care. I'm a PlayStation guy. Always will be a PlayStation guy. So, another thing I want to talk about here is transitioning into video games. Excuse me one moment here. I got a cough again. I hate this cold. Transitioning into video games slash wrestling is I kind of commented on one of Pat the NES Punk's videos. And the video was talking about how ESPN featured a gaming competition on their their network. ESPN2 did. And it didn't do very well in the ratings, first of all, because of probably ESPN probably aired the thing. I forget where Pat said that he aired it at. Pat and Ian on their podcast said that they aired it at, but knowing them, it was like 6 o'clock in the morning or 2 a.m. in the morning, right in between infomercials. And, Pat made the comment of, right now it's too early for, yes, it's gaining popularity, but right now it's too early for ESPN to do it. And that, whoever put on this gaming competition probably paid a crap ton of money to get it on ESPN, so it was probably shown as a block of paid programming, which is true, it probably was. And that it didn't do a very good rating. And that, of course it didn't. And that people aren't ready to see this. If somebody was clicking on, ESPN and saw video games, they'd probably be like, what the hell is this? And click away. And they'd probably send ESPN a tweet talking about, hey, get this crap off my sports station. I want to view more football. Anyway. And then he goes on to say it would be like, he goes, quote, it would be like if pro wrestling was aired on ESPN. That's where I kind of, was like, huh? Are you really comparing that to pro wrestling being on ESPN? Because back in the late 80s, granted, wrestling was at its heyday then, or just, coming out of its heyday, that golden, not the golden age, but, it was coming out of the, that era, because once 89 or 91 hit, the whole business kind of tanked. But, anyway, ESPN was airing AWA every single afternoon. And I think they aired Continental as well. ESPN was airing pro wrestling. ESPN has aired pro wrestling before, and pro wrestling has done good numbers for ESPN before. ESPN recognizes the sports side of pro wrestling. They know it's just a show, but there is athleticism involved, and it is sports. It's, and I'm not saying that gaming isn't, because I'm sorry, the wave of the future to me, and I would love to see it, is gaming being a sport. Colleges now are paying kids scholarships to be on their gaming teams. I think there's one in Chicago that's doing League of Legends, and they have junior varsity and varsity and all this crap, and it's great. I love it. I love that. But it's too soon for it to be on ESPN. But my thing with him was, in getting into the wrestling side of this, because I know a majority of my viewers and followers on Twitter, which is, you can follow me, I'm going to start putting the links in the description as well as at the end of the video. The thing is that the wrestling side of it is that the day he posted this was on YouTube. He posted the clip from the podcast on YouTube. He does a regular podcast, the CU podcast. I'm going to plug the guy. Hey, go Pat the NES Punk. Go subscribe to his YouTube channel. Follow him on Twitter. And subscribe to his podcast on iTunes. It's a great podcast. I actually like watching it in video format more than I do listening to it on my iPad or iPhone, because I watch it between calls at work. And it's entertaining. It's very good. I like that podcast. I hope to be up there with him one day, to be honest with you. But what killed me is the whole comparing video gaming to pro wrestling as if it was like a circus novelty act, And they've compared wrestling to the circus before on the podcast. And my thing with that is this. ESPN had just aired a E60, which is like their little documentary film series, their E60 program, featuring WWE, more specifically its NXT brand and how they make new stars, their developmental system, about how it became to be, how it's set up, and they followed stars like, Xavier Woods, Corey Graves, and Adam Rose on the evolution of their characters and how they got up to the main roster, blah, blah, blah. You were even allowed inside of creative meetings, which has really never been done before. I can't remember the last time ESPN did an E60 thing on WWE. Vince McMahon was like, all right, time for you to leave, ESPN. We're going to get into creative now. But my point of this is that wrestling is on ESPN. Wrestling was featured on ESPN. Granted, you're not seeing live matches, but you're seeing something that's giving the quote unquote sport of pro wrestling. It gave it time to. It brought it to the main light with, hey, this is not just a bunch of carnival rednecks watching this. These are real people. They have lives. This is a sport to them. This is why it is what they do, and this is why you should be watching it. This is good, it's good stuff. It took wrestling out of, and it brung it from here to here in a lot of people's eyes. It treated it as legitimate. It took it and treated it as if it was, hey, you need to be watching this, instead of just featuring a gaming competition at 3 a.m. in the morning. And now, granted, I love gaming, but it's just not at that level yet. And to compare it to pro wrestling is kind of, it's apples and oranges. I'll put it that way. Brock Lesnar was on ESPN not too long ago doing a sit-down interview with Michelle Beadle talking about how he's staying in WWE, how and why he chose the WWE over UFC. That's legitimacy. You're not going to see a gamer A talking about how he's quitting the gaming business, or why he's switching from playing one game to another, why he's switching from League of Legends tournaments to Halo tournaments. You're not going to see that type of thing. The last time video gaming and professional video gaming, now granted, I think ESPN even ran, or maybe I think it was even Spike TV ran it, but I believe ESPN was running the PGL, the Professional Gaming League, or whatever it is. They ran that little series about professional gaming for a while, and then it fizzled out. It didn't do too well. But it was there, and I think it even still aired at like 3 a.m. in the morning or something. But, the last time I think that professional gaming, and this is really going to show my age, was featured on a major network in a positive light, taking it and treating it as legitimate, was when MTV did their little True Life series back in like 2001. And I think it might have been 2000 even, because China was still with Triple H. 99, 2000, somewhere in there. Because they did a thing called True Life, I'm a Pro Wrestler the same year, and China was with Triple H. So it might have been 2000, maybe they aired it in 2001, talking about True Life, I'm a Gamer, and one of those guys was Fatality. Who a couple of months back in Game Informer, it was probably about 6 months ago in Game Informer, they did a Where Are They Now thing about professional gamers, and Fatality was one of them. But they took that series, that little hour-long True Life quote-unquote documentary, did a service for professional gaming, in that it took it from one spot to another. It's like, hey, people do this for a living. It's a serious sport. You had the Fatality, and then you had the guy who was like playing Golden Tee for a living, going to different tournaments. Then you had like a house full of gamers who worked at FedEx, I believe. If you haven't seen it, look it up on YouTube. It's all over YouTube. It's there, and it's actually a very good show for being... This was back when MTV was still showing music videos. TRL was still around back then. So TRL was actually at its heyday back when this stuff was airing. So go check that out, too. So that's the last time I think I saw gaming being brought to the forefront and, not being such a niche deal. But Pat, I'm going to go pull it up here, because Pat kind of, I won't say ticked me off, but it kind of made me tilt my head to the side and go, dude, you really call yourself like a smart mark? You really, are you really that blind as to, ESPN did a primetime special on the WWE and NXT. It wasn't even the main roster. It was NXT. that got featured. I'm going to go ahead and see what somebody put they still air wrestling on ESPN Classic, and he goes, ESPN Classic is a far cry from ESPN2. Yeah, but it still draws ratings and people still do watch it. And I was like, they just ran an E60 documentary about WWE and NXT on ESPN. Not ESPN, not even ESPN2. They ran it on their mother network. And Pat goes, that's not current programming. That's a behind-the-scenes news story. News story. It still took it, and it is current programming. Because they did, it's current. It's happening now. They sit there and took you on an evolution of Adam Rose, from Leo Kruger to Adam Rose, and then they even featured what they're doing now. So it's current. It's very current, and it drew a decent rating. And I put, but the way wrestling's going now, fans are liking the behind-the-scenes stuff. They're liking the fact that, you know, they're liking the behind-the-scenes stuff more than the actual in-ring product. If you ask me, WWE needs to start taking this E60, like something like the E60 deal, and putting it on their network. And ROH just got clearance on the, you know, New England Sports Network's national channel, so that's going to be branching out. Pro wrestling in general is starting to make a comeback. And he goes, well, when they start airing wrestling events, give me a call. It could happen, and they have before. That's the thing I want to stress, is that they have before. They may not be doing it now, but they have before, and they will again if wrestling ever starts. I could totally see if wrestling starts, you know, another boom period. ESPN, I mean, they took what's that guy's name who did the commentary? Phil Simmons. I think his name, Bill Simmons, Phil Simmons, whatever. He was featured prominently in an episode of Raw from ESPN. So, I mean, you know, it's valid. It's current. They're not going to air an E60 on video gamers. It's not going to happen. And I think Pat agreed with me on the majority of that point, was that, and Pat even made the point in the podcast, hey, it's not, gaming is not there yet. But I think wrestling can be. The bottom line is they take pro wrestling more serious than they do video games. They take it a lot more serious than what people think, because if they didn't, and if they didn't see it as legitimate, you wouldn't be seeing it on a whole entire E60 special. They wouldn't have taken the time and the money to produce it. You know, call me when they do an E60 special on video gaming. That's all I wanted to say. I'm going to move on now from the majority of, and the majority of this next video is going to be about the Food Network. A lot of people go, Joe, how can you do a video about the Food Network? Well, I want to talk a little bit about the Food Network because I can't watch the Food Network anymore, hardly, guys. There used to be where there was a time where I'd spend the whole day watching Food Network. I would DVR programs that I would like, and I'd go back and write down the recipes and try them. You know, Good Eats with Alton Brown taught me how to cook. Now, granted, that didn't even start on the Food Network. That started on PBS back in the day in certain markets, and then the Food Network bought the rights to the show. Go back and watch season 1. You'll tell a hell of a lot of difference. Food Network very first started doing things right. It's the way they should have been. They kind of have dropped the ball, I want to say, because of the fact of it's now nothing more than a Top Chef clone channel. And they started back in 1993. November of 1993, so you might as well say Monday, pretty much 94. And it was pretty much, you know, as they grew up, you know, 98, 99, it was the Emeril Lagasse network, and I loved Emeril Lagasse. I loved, you know, the Taste of Emeril show. I liked Emeril Live, which a lot of people said, oh, having a live band and a monologue, treating it like it was late night with David Letterman, which it wasn't. It totally wasn't. They had a band because Emerald likes music and he's a percussionist. He could play the drums. So he tried, why not feature a band? It was entertaining. You know, it was Doc Gibbs and the Emerald Live Band. It was actually pretty good. And then he would teach you how to cook. The Food Network has gotten away from that. You know, the Emerald days are now gone. They used to feature other shows like Cooking Live with Sarah Moulton, where you would go, they would put on their website, hey, we're going to do a live show on blah, blah, blah. Here's the ingredients you need to cook along with Sarah Moulton and prepare this dish. And that was awesome. You know, I wish they'd bring that concept back with somebody like an Alton Brown or somebody like that. And all of a sudden then, let me see if I can find this article for you real quick, because NPR, National Public Radio, did a whole, sorry, I should have been more prepared, but I wanted to find, they did a whole article about how Emerald left that network. And they did a whole article about how he left and how he basically had a falling out with that network and how they wanted him to evolve with the network. And Emerald's like, look, we don't need to evolve. This is a cash cow that could sit there and, you know, this is a cash cow that could pretty much sit there and make you money for years to come, which it could have. Emerald was still hot. In fact, whenever somebody goes bam, the first thing you think about is Emerald. That's Emerald's catchphrase. To see somebody else use that, you scoff at him. Go, who the hell do you think you are, Emerald? And Emerald's doing fine, don't get me wrong. The dude has more products on store shelves and I don't, you know, he has seasonings and spaghetti sauce and this and that and all over the, you know, he's all over the grocery store shelves. I think that the fallout was because Food Network was trying to go one direction in the way of doing Iron Chef America and canceling Good Eats, and then they were gonna, you know, they were gonna do the reality thing with the damn mystery diners. We're gonna come in and do your restaurant, and then Kitchen Nightmares, which I love the UK version of Kitchen Nightmares. The US version is shit. Sorry, Gordon, but it is. They were looking, you know, Kitchen Nightmares exploded, so Network was like, oh, we got to do that. And then Top Chef exploded, so we got to do the next Food Network star, which is pretty much a slap in the face to everybody who was currently on the network, such as like a Rachel Ray, who has since kind of moved on from them, and, you know, a Rachel Ray and Emerald and Bobby Flay, which Bobby Flay could go to hell because I can't stand him. The dude's just an arrogant prick, and whenever I watch one of his shows, I just want to smack him. But Mario, you had Molto Mario Batali. He was actually pretty good, and then they made him an Iron Chef, and then he got fizzled out. Then Morimoto got fizzled out, I think. And then the whole entire Iron Chef show got fizzled out because now it's like the next Food Network star and the next home cook, and you know, blah blah blah. And we got to do the reality shows. We got to take a good show like Dinner Impossible and make it into Restaurant Impossible, where we basically spoof off, you know, Give Me a New Restaurant and Kitchen Nightmares all in one and this and that. And then we got to do, you know, then other networks do like Bar Rescue and stuff like that. It's just no. Good Eats was the last good show that they've had. And then they killed that off because they wanted to get into the whole reality era shit. They're basically the reality Food Network now. And if you want to continue to watch cooking shows, you have to hope and pray that you're able to get the Cooking Channel, which I think the Cooking Channel is only available on satellite. I think that they could bounce back from it. And I wanted to say a lot more about it, but this video is running kind of long. They need to get back to their roots of when they first started. Get rid of this reality shit. I don't care. The diners, dine-ins, and drives thing is good, but Feasting on Asphalt was better. And Alton Brown, a lot of people are clamoring for Feasting on Asphalt to come back, but the reason why Alton Brown can't bring it back or doesn't want to bring it back is because Guy Fieri has diluted the whole concept with the diners, dine-ins, and drives crap. I think that they could bring it back to prominent. The Food Network can still do good if they bring back cooking shows. Teach me how to cook again. Entertain me, and teach me how to cook again. These Food Network star guys, they had the one, what was it, Artie, the little Indian girl. She was actually kind of cute, but you haven't seen her. It's like half the guys that they put on these Food Network star things you don't see. And then they have this little View type show, I call it, because it's just like The View in a kitchen, called The Kitchen, which ABC has their own called The Chew, featuring non-Food Network guys. But it's crazy because I think the Food Network is owned by ABC. So, but I miss shows like, The Naked Chef. You had Two Fat Ladies. Two Fat Ladies was awesome. One of them died recently, I think, but you had that. You had Emerald Live. You had all these shows that actually taught you how to cook and taught you how to be a better home cook, how to go out and buy groceries well, what people, what's trending, what's this, this is how to do things the good way. And this now it's just like, oh, we're going to go to restaurant A, we're going to taste the food and tell you what we think. And then we're going to sit there and we're going to go into a restaurant and tell you how shitty it is. And then we're going to go into a restaurant A and try to catch people stealing, and then we'll bring the owner in, and he's going to go ape shit on everybody and fire some people, and that's it. Thank you for watching. No, I don't want to see it. I want to see cooking. I want to see people making food. I want to see food. I could care less how Billy Bob's barbecue joint in Iowa is being ran. Kitchen Nightmares had a run in the UK. You know why they don't do it anymore? Because people got sick of it. Snap out of this reality era crap and entertain me again. That's all I'm saying, The Emerald fallout was very, very bitter from what I understand with Food Network. He really wanted to be there. The ratings were still good for his show. I think that they wanted him to do Iron Chef and Next Food Network Star, and his agent was like, no, he's not going to do that because he's a cook. He's a cooking show guy. Can you imagine if they wanted Julia Child to do Next Food Network Star? First, no, I couldn't see her doing it. And Food Network was like, well, we don't know if we can afford you anymore, and the direction of the network is changing. And Emerald, according to this NPR article, which I'll link below, said you're full of it. The audience got older, granted, but the show's going to bounce back. Emerald was the network. It might have been, they might as well considered Food Network the Emerald Network back in the day. People were loving it. And they were saying that in the last couple of years of Emerald Live, they had to book younger musical acts and invited younger chefs to cook with him. And a local DJ demonstrated fried chicken recipe on the network. And, it was stupid. But a lot of people were saying the ratings were slipping. And, yeah, they were. But I still enjoyed the show. And this is just my opinion. They should have kept it. And they didn't want to lose Emerald from prime time. Emerald was getting older himself. I mean, just look at the guy's weight gain from the time he started up until, then the dude had a damn belly on him. And yeah, when Emerald brings up points of, hey, I don't want to go kind of dark, I want to be family friendly, so let me cook with Elmo on the show. Yeah, that's a bit out there from left field, but I think that, they could have done something more with him. And then when the cooking channel came along, they kind of pushed him over there, and he had his own couple of shows over there, but I think they've since fizzled out as well. But I think that I think the Food Network has to do something to step up their game. They have to do something better because right now I can't watch an episode of that show. I can't watch Everyday Italian because while the girl watching it looks good, I just can't watch it. People don't eat like that. And cooking shows in general need to be revitalized because half the crap that they cook with, who can afford a bottle of wine to put in every meal? Who can afford to, buy saffron when the shit's $36 a can in your local store? They lost Paula Deen. Now, a lot of people are skipping over that. They lost Paula Deen, which I'm glad about because I couldn't stand the woman to begin with. There's a video on my channel. If you go check it out, it's called Oh Paula. I might even put like a gimmick on it up here because I can't stand Paula Deen. I never could. She was one of the reasons why people look at us Southern guys and think we're just a bunch of inbreeding hicks. She gave this, I'm sorry. Southern cooking is an art form, and it's really, really great, and we don't need people like her dumbing it down. Just like I'm a guy, I live here in Virginia, and I kill for a decent deli around here. You don't see it down here in the South. I would kill for a nice diner or a nice deli around here, which I ate at a diner yesterday. I ate at River City Diner in Richmond, and the food was delicious. But you just don't have those things like that around here. You can't go find butcher shops around here. You can't find a deli around here. And that's one of the things with Good Eats is that Alton Brown was like, on many of his videos featuring meat dishes, he's like, have the butcher do this for you. You can't find butchers anymore. I used to work at Kroger in their meat department. We couldn't slice chicken, pork, anything. The only thing we could slice for you was beef. And even then it was steak. Or we could grind a roast up for hamburger for you, but even then you only got one choice of grind, and that was fine because we didn't want to change the dies on the grinder. You don't see that crap anymore. You got to base it on the home cook and what you actually find. Not everybody lives in a major metropolitan area like New York or Chicago or LA. Get with it, Food Network. That's all I'm trying to say. Teach me how to cook. I don't care how Billy Bob's barbecue joint is being brung down by its employees who are stealing out of the cash register. I don't care. I don't care about barbecue pit masters and, who cares about that crap. I don't want to watch Top Chef. I don't want to watch the Food Network, next Food Network star. Because you watch that competition. I mean, American Idol is ending, so what does that tell you guys? That whole competition show thing is gone. It's done. Anyway, guys, I'm going to have a video coming up here probably tomorrow about DLC and gaming and where I think it's going. I mentioned a little bit about that in my last video that I did. Check out the other videos on my channel. Hit that like button. It should be right here, down here, somewhere down here, and leave a comment down here and subscribe. That button's down here, and you guys know. I tell you guys to do it every video, but I'm not going to hit my knees and go, please subscribe. I need money. Let's hit 1 million. It's not my style. Anyway, I just put out good content for you guys. That's why I don't have a fancy green screen behind me. This light is in every video. Sometimes that door is open back there. My cat's running around, but I'm not going to, I'm not going to go out there and waste money on YouTube if it's not going to take off, Of course, you got to spend money to make money, but I have a job. I don't need YouTube for my job. Now, if YouTube wants to pay me to do videos and it's steady work, I might be open to that. But until YouTube is going to keep that light on behind me, it's not going to happen. It happens for some, but it probably will never happen for me, and that's why you're going to get the glare in the glasses and the light over my shoulder. But I appreciate you guys for watching. I hit that like button, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. It used to be rate, comment, give me 5 stars. Remember that? We don't give stars anymore. Maybe that should tell you something, Meltzer. Anyway, guys, I'll be back tomorrow with a video about DLC in video games. I also have a little bit about NXT. They're on tour. They just did a show in Philly, which I heard last night was awesome, headlined by women. And everybody is like, oh, the women headlined. It's the first time women ever headlined a live event. Well, Trish and Lita headlined Raw back in '03, I believe, or '04, and they tore the damn house down. Everybody was creaming their pants over that match. So, it's not the first time it's happened. Sasha Banks and Charlotte are awesome. You know, I'm fully behind the Give Divas a Chance movement. But anyway, we'll have more about that tomorrow. This is Joe White, and we'll see you guys down the road.